Welcome to Art Salon. I'm Ellie Shore, and I've been running Art Salon now for more than 6 years. And I keep finding wonderful artists that I totally want to hear and want to share. And our speaker tonight is Dana Donati. Dana is a painter who does the most amazing, fantastical, crazy, and incredibly beautiful large paintings that have characters of all kinds running around doing all kinds of crazy things. She plays with scales, she plays with color, she plays with chance, she plays with this amazing fantasy imagination that she's got. And it creates absolutely wonderful, beautiful things. And she's got a very interesting process that she'll be telling us about. I met Dana, I guess, soon after she came to Florida. I think she came in 2006. She has a bachelor's degree in drawing from Moore College of Art and Design in Philadelphia. And then she went to London for 12 years and came back here and began a business doing faux finishing, interior kinds of residential commissions, commercial commissions, and her own painting. And it's become enjoyed and acknowledged and shown very widely within South Florida, and I think in other places as well. And she'll be telling us. So this is Dana Donati.
Hi, thanks Ellie. Thanks for inviting me to talk and the wonderful introduction. So I'm going to be showing you two bodies of work tonight. And because I'm showing you two bodies of work, I'm going to read you an artist statement for each one and then go through some images and talk about the work. The first body of work is Profoundly Playful, and I'm going to be showing you selected works and installations from 2014 to 2017. My work is informed by and explores the relation between memory and perception, emphasizing the role of memory. Memory as content and medium, examining the role of color while traversing how the past persists in the present. Memory as a space where the past and the present coexist in the form of images. The examination of past experiences disrupts sequences, allowing for a fluidity of time and the transition of one perception to the next with no clear dividing lines. There isn't a specific narrative for the work, so much as a grammar arising from the process of complex memory construction and issues of interpretation. My work comes from an interest in satirical playfulness, fragments of timeless memory where nothing is sacred. Thinking about how the process of how things come into being, how the art is formed, conceived, and recognized. Every part of my creating is a series of actions and reactions. I place virgin canvases underneath the in-process painting on my easel. I am collecting the excess paint that is flung, spattered, scraped, and otherwise offloaded. Just like the canvas before it, the floor work is then raised to eye level. From the aggregation of Rorschach-like blots, a fresh composition and a new group of figurative characters emerge. Their shapes serve as a stimulus for free association. In fact, any shape can spark the associative process. It's an intrinsic aspect of the work. The process gives life to a cast of characters, each one leading to the other. It's a visual display of memories sourced from the subconscious. In addition to this process, I often assimilate ideas or phrases from things people say or from books on audio that I'm listening to while I'm working. My process mirrors the way in which we learn. We cannot ultimately control how information finds us or how we process it. Therefore, I regard chance as an organizing principle in the construction of each painting. While the chance convergence of memories, thoughts, sounds, emotions, and other stimuli, I'm attempting an arrangement layered with numerous subplots that is both personal and universal. I consider the work to be a poetic theater of uncertainty, popular culture, universal truths, personal experiences, and the modern condition. So the first slide you're looking at here is demonstrating the process of the work, how there's always a canvas underneath the painting on the wall. And the canvas on the floor is getting walked on, Sometimes I'm sitting on it, I'm writing phone numbers. I might be listening to a book and hear something that's interesting and jot it down. Just everything goes into that mix. And it's just this whole series of mark making that at a certain point then gets raised to the wall and becomes the ground for the next piece. This is the finished piece that was on the wall. This is America's Got Talent. It's 68 by 110. This is that same piece set into an installation at Bakehouse Art Complex in Miami. And some of the creatures that are in the paintings and some of the symbolism, like the Christmas ornaments and things, I've started making and bringing them out of the work. This is Freaky. He's one of the creatures that's in the work. This is the studio in my house. The initial image that I showed you, there was a piece on the floor. This is that piece raised to the wall. And there's another piece starting underneath it. So one piece gives birth to the next. And the ground, the piece on the floor, the ground on that gets built up pretty quickly because I use absolutely everything that I have. At the end of the day, when I have containers with water and pigment in them, I'll just mix the pigment up and I'll throw it down on that canvas on the floor. Everything goes into it, nothing gets wasted. And I'll take things that are around, you know, could be this, could be my LaCroix, anything, and just put it down on the area with all the water to weight it and make different shapes. This piece called The Economics of Desire. It's 64 by 106. And what's pretty interesting about this piece was I had this idea just based on the process of the work that I could put the canvas up on the wall and I could have people participate in a piece. The same way that if I hear something in a book, I write it, or you know, I might write down a phone number, just this idea of other people being part of the work. And I got that opportunity one day. I was at Bakehouse in my studio and I had a meeting with 7 college students from New World School of the Arts. And we talked about the work and we talked about the process, and then I handed them each a piece of chalk. And they all went and found creatures in that sort of, the ground is what I guess I'd call it. And it was a great idea until, you know, one of them found that they chalked them and then I painted them. But it was a great idea until one of them chalked that huge bullhead in the middle of the painting. You know, I wasn't quite prepared for them to have such a large stake in the painting. I thought, you know, most of them, and it figures it was a boy. You know, the girls found small things. He just found this huge thing in the middle of it. So that was a little bit challenging for me to let it live there. This piece is called Jumpin' Jack Flash. And for a lot of my work, people ask me about the titles. The titles come in a few ways. It could be from a piece of music like this was, or it could be based on a title of a painting that I like. Or I might ask, if I'm completely stumped, I'll ask a friend. And if they come up with something I like, that might be the title. This is Flaming Billy. Sometimes I'll ask friends of mine to be the human figure in the paintings. And this was a friend of mine who had a studio at Bakehouse. He passed away just a few years ago, Harvey Zipkin. Did anyone know Harvey? Helly, yeah. If you know Harvey, you know that's Harvey. You know, the blue Converse. This is Harlequin's Carnival, based on Joan Moreau's. Not the work wasn't, but the title was based on Harlequin's Carnival, Joan Moreau. I like the title. This is All Stars. There isn't a lot of food in my paintings, but if you see a donut or something, I was probably hungry. There's a donut in that painting. This one is Top Dog. And that's its title because on the smallest part, on the top right-hand side, there's a dog up there. And in this one, it was when I got really interested in bringing out the creatures three-dimensionally. And the pink guy with the shark monocle, I started naming them. That's Captain Moneypants. And then the yellow creature next to him is Glurpy. So this is Captain Moneypants. I'll go back so you can see what a great likeness it is. And this was a year after that painting, and it took a year mostly because I was figuring out how to make him. I hadn't done sculpture. Not only figuring out how to make him, but figuring out what he looked like three-dimensionally, because I only ever saw him in my painting. That's Glurpy. And they're fairly big. He stands 30 inches tall. And I'm just going to show you a few completed works. This is Bombay Sapphire. This is Lunar Landing. It's a self-portrait. And this is the top right. You can see the profile of the canvas. I started taking some of my toys rather than making things and cutting them up and painting them and putting them on the work. It's another Captain Moneypants. Captain Moneypants is a reoccurring theme in my work. And this piece, I don't have the complete title on there. It's called Rhinocorn, coming to a theater near you soon. And it's pretty big. It's 110 inches tall by 54. And this creature right here, we're going to see in a second, his head comes out of the painting. So that's the profile of that. And his head is made from a whole bunch of things from Home Depot. This next piece, Psychedelic Rodeo, is constructed in the same way. The head on the deer is also three-dimensional. That's it in profile. Now this next slide is from a sketchbook that belonged to my Aunt Esther, and this sketchbook was from the 1960s. And Esther was a huge influence in my life, and one of the first artists that I ever knew, because she was my aunt. And I lived with her after college, and it was the first time that I knew that you could live that way. You know, she had the big house with a studio next to it. She was the first real artist that I knew. And she passed away 6 years ago, and I cleaned out her studio and went through all of her archives, and now I have a lot of them. And when I was going through them, I don't know what it is about this is only maybe 8 by 10. I don't know, something about this print struck me, and I wanted to use it, and I wanted to do some sort of a collaboration with Esther. I don't know if collaboration's the right word, because she's no longer with us, but I wanted to do something with her. And I also like to present the work different each time I exhibit it. I don't like to present it the same way every single time. So I took this, and recently I had an exhibit at Coral Springs Museum of Art, and I took Esther's prints, and then I layered it behind the work, which just gave it another context. And it was perfect, because it was just this little alcove to surround it. This is another installation. This was, it's called Saturday Night Live. The creature's name is Marcel. And Marcel that's him coming out. And this is at the Box Gallery in West Palm Beach. This is another installation at the Box Gallery. It's 2 paintings, Art of the Spiel and Lily Pulitzer's Prize. And the next image is a close-up of Art of the Spiel, the painting on the left. And it's just to give you an idea of the texture on the canvas and words sometimes that you can't see from looking at the whole piece unless you're up close to it. That's the last image from this body of work, and that was in 2017 was the last piece that I did on that work. And at that time, I went to India for a few months. And I was meant to go for 1 month, and I ended up staying for 3. And when I came back from India, I walked in my studio and I just saw all that color. And it was too much. So the next body of work is recent, and it's a complete departure from this work. So get ready. All right, I'm going to read you the statement for this one, because the work is still so new for me that the best I can do is read a whole bunch of sentences that I put together. Okay. All right, the title, the working title of the work so far is Order and Collapse. This is a new body of work that I started after I came back from a 3-month trip to India at the end of 2017. It's an autobiographical body of work. It is about the role of perception and knowledge and how it plays into our lives. It's about faith and how we know what we know. It's not about religion, it's about faith. On the things you think you know, and when you come to find out, you don't really know them. What you really thought you knew all along. It's hard to imagine a world that exists outside of what we can perceive. The work deals with some of these assumptions, using a blurred line between painting, photography, sculpture, and installation work. The work deals with the knowledge that has been imparted by others regarding their own experiences and mine. This work marks a major departure in style, content, and concepts that have encompassed the development of my work for the past 4 years. Order and Collapse will create, as in real life, a complex, multifaceted, fragmented, skewed, and uncomfortable conversation. For the past few years, my work has wrestled with ideas of perception and source, and that has informed the inspirations that have empowered the new work. Coming to terms with my background and the impact it has had in my life, I'm interested in creating a combination of past and new memories as a way to analyze the nature of knowledge and how it relates to notions of truth, belief, and justification. It also deals with the means of production of knowledge, as well as the skepticism about different knowledge claims. Intuition in itself has also played a large role in the way that I have approached the creation of my work. As intuition can range from direct access to unconscious knowledge and cognition, my work has relied in part to my direct reaction to the need of understanding and how it factually relates. The process. I have manipulated photographs, medical supplies, collage, books, medicine cabinets, all creating a collective idea of interpretation and understanding of our physical world. The work manifests these experiences through the lens of perception, how things look, how they feel, and how they sound. Through an interdisciplinary approach of the work, the boundaries of fact and fiction are blurred. This is a photo from my studio in Miami. So when I started the new work, I wasn't quite sure how to begin. I gathered a lot of materials, a lot of anatomical parts, medical cabinets. I wasn't quite sure what I was doing. So I just decided to do a really large wall work. And I papered the whole wall. It's a completely different process to the other work. A lot of photography. While there is painting, the painting is sort of marrying the collage pieces together. So this is where I started. This is a better view of it. And I mentioned my Aunt Esther before. She's entered this work as well. The palette sheet there, part of her archives were all of these hand-painted palettes. And I'm not quite sure how yet, but it seems to play a role in the work. So at a certain point when I was making the collage on the wall, it was just huge, you know, and at a certain point I started to see pieces, individual standalone pieces that I then cut away from the larger piece. So the larger piece no longer exists. This is also in the studio in Miami. Those are the cabinets where I was setting up still lives and lighting and taking photographs. This is a finished piece. This is 48 by 48. You guys are seeing this work for the first time, so I'll give you a couple of seconds. I don't have titles for these pieces. These pieces don't come so easy as the other work. I mean, if I do have a title for any of them, it is this piece, and it's still just an idea, but I think it might be called "It Took 3 Blades to Cut Through It." That's a detail. So you can see the photography and the painting. And I'm using my iPhone for all of this. So, because there's a really steep learning curve with this new process, I bought this huge new printer, the Epson 8000, that I had to learn how to use, working with paper and collage. So I just couldn't bear the thought of photography as well, to learn a camera. And the iPhone is great. This is another piece. It's also 48 by 48. And some detail shots. This is a painting and print on paper. Also painting, print, and collage. And on the right-hand side, there's a photograph of a cyanotype, which is another medium I'm also working with. I don't have tons to say about this work. That's why I read this statement, because it is still really new for me. I don't really know how to talk about it yet. This is one of the cabinets where I was setting up the still lives. So this is a photo. Another huge part of my life was my father. My father was a doctor, and this was a book that I had as a kid. While everyone else was reading Winnie the Pooh or something, I was getting The Anatomy of a Heart. So none of this work has been seen outside of my studio yet. You guys are seeing it for the first time. I've had a few curators in the studio to look at it, so I have had some conversations about it, but not a lot of eyes have been on this work. Well, a lot of the anatomical models I'm buying online and then modifying them. Some like these right here, I'm really altering them, the surface texture of them. And the last slide I'm going to leave you with is, the initial really giant wall work only still exists now as a photograph, and I'm just thinking about how I can continue to work with that as a piece that no longer exists. And I've been manipulating the image on the computer. Just a possibility, a direction. And that is it. Thank you.